about that. And as you may know, research shows that in the European banking sector, cooperative banks accounted for only 8% of direct loss and write-down arises from the crisis. Now, even as there are some cooperative banks that posted losses, they arose only at the highest level of their structure and subsidiaries, and not at the level of the local banks, while write-offs that did occur proved bearable in relative terms. Now, the other one, as I said, is flexibility, the other area aspect. Also, flexibility empowers people, as financial cooperatives offer tailor-made products and services designed to suit local conditions. These innovative dynamics are especially true in rural and agricultural areas, where financial cooperatives cater to farmers, to distributors and other actors at various stages of the production. And the services rendered can include, as we know, revolving line of credit, long-term credit facility for capacity building, and insurance against calamity, drought, and market volatility. Now, in return, these services generate economies of scale, consolidate the supply chain, and facilitate access to wider markets, thus rising productivity and output. Furthermore, the local orientation of these practices allows communities to better monitor food supplies and guarantee food security. Now, by emphasizing inclusion, resilience, and flexibility, financial cooperatives are deeply involved in the endeavor to empower people. Empower means participate, providing tools, and mobilize them, people, as agents for the development of their own livelihoods and communities. So, from these fundamentals, how do financial cooperatives move forward? What are the growth strategies for the future? And what can the United Nations do to help engender an enabling environment for cooperatives in general? As an advocate of cooperatives' values and their contributions to development, the United Nations can facilitate dialogue among stakeholders. It can help frame issues to draw the attention of key global actors and key global institutions. In so doing, the United Nations advances the cooperative cause to the forefront of social, economic, and I would also add environmental discussions and policy deliberations. And let me cover very briefly some of these areas, three, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation. The first one, legislation. One critical issue involves how cooperatives are recognized and allowed to operate as unique business enterprises. This requires further clarification on the legal and structural elements of public policy towards cooperatives. For instance, laws should clearly identify cooperatives as for, if I may say, profit enterprises, while also recognizing their distinctive, member-driven form of organization and their valuable contributions to improving social well-being. On this point, governments can be encouraged to consider explicit reference to cooperatives in major legislation and even in their national constitutions, as is already the case in some countries. Governments can also deepen engagement and awareness by creating specialized ministries, departments, or executive agencies that are taxed explicitly or even exclusively for overseeing cooperative affairs. And simply, cooperatives have earned and deserve a more definitely established place in formal, legal, and political setting. The other point is regulation. On a related topic, there is also a need for a fair and proportionate regulatory framework that places cooperatives on a level playing field with its non-cooperative competitors. With respect to financial cooperatives, in particular, the United Nations reiterates its call for tailored regulation adjusted through a fine-tuned process of calibration and assessment. Only through careful consideration of the balance between risk and returns and the potential costs of supervision and monitoring can governments arrive at appropriate levels of forms of regulation. On this point, raising awareness about the distinct nature of financial cooperatives may contribute to addressing what may be the most relevant regulatory issue now faced by savings and credit cooperatives, the implementation of the new rules under Basel III. On one hand, the United Nations recognizes the potential values of Basel III, as these changes aim to improve standards for capital adequacy, liquidity, and leverage of banks that help strengthen financial systems in participating countries. On the other hand, however, the United Nations is aware that some financial cooperatives may be burdened or constrained by new regulations that, for instance, impose more stringent solvency requirements and hamper lending to small and medium-sized enterprises, or impose expensive overheads costs, such as overly complex risk control structures and compliance burdens that could place credit cooperatives at a disadvantage relative to larger corporate banks. Now, the other aspect, and I'm almost finished, is research, and the last one is education. Now, research and education. The above areas, that is regulation and legislation, have the necessity to have a greater degree of education and research efforts on cooperatives in general. And it is an imperative for cooperatives, I believe, to improve the quality and availability of research and data on their programs, operations, and memberships. And as such, the United Nations again urges further consolidation and harmonization of statistics and studies, since easier access to this information can help ensure that stakeholders make informed, competent decisions about cooperatives. And regarding financial cooperatives in particular, much more can be done to incorporate them into university and vocational curricula. With an increase in specialized programs and courses on cooperative management, it will become possible to train the numbers necessary for guaranteeing a sizable, qualified talent pool. Additionally, awareness of cooperatives can be integrated in school curricula so that in growing up future generations, they can enjoy an earlier familiarity with cooperatives and their values. And doing so will also provide the opportunity to expose current and future policymakers on the social benefits that healthy and vibrant cooperatives offer to societies in general. And these are some of the issues that should be addressed in the proposed United Nations Plan of Action on Cooperatives. The Plan of Action is intended as the initial roadmap for activities after this year, and it will serve as a key component in coordinating strategies among cooperative stakeholders, as well, of course, as their global partners. And I hope your work here at this conference will contribute to inputs for the plan of action, which I urge all of you to support. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, cooperatives are currently in the global spotlight as never before. The ongoing financial crisis and economic downturns offer a prime opportunity for financial cooperatives to convey their unique nature as a proven, sustainable, alternative business model that is ethically grounded and in core principles of people-driven, community-oriented enterprises. This is what cooperatives are, as far as I understood. The 28th CIBP Congress, held during this international year, is a change to reflect on past performance and deliberate on present strategies, but it can also serve as an inflection point for the future direction of cooperatives movements. For at this moment, cooperatives may be poised for degrees of influence and attention that are unprecedented if they choose to do so. In closing, I extend to you my highest hopes for the success of this Congress, as I am already certain that your sessions will enhance the vibrant dialogue and exchange that have produced dynamic and resilient financial institutions. And I would like to encourage you to focus as well on how to chart a course for the cooperative movement as a whole. The International Year marks a new level of recognition for cooperatives, and cooperatives in turn must conceive a new vision for their place in the world, one that is commensurate with their economic capacity and contribution, as well as consistent with their cherished social values. Thank you, and again, I wish you all the best for the conference, as well as for your stay here in Morocco.
Thank you, Mrs. Bass. I'd like to thank you from all of us this morning for your very inspiring remarks. You know well our business model, the cooperative business model. Your remarks shows it. And yes, we have homework to do, but we appreciate a lot the support of the United Nations to make sure that the battle we are engaged in to promote this cooperative business model and to make it recognized, to have it recognized throughout the world as a powerful instrument, as an inclusive business model that is different. It has a role to play in this world of pluralism. Mm-hmm. And then we thank the United Nations to support the cooperative movement, and in particular, the Cooperative Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merci, madame. Merci, madame. Merci, monsieur. Merci à vous. Eh bien, pour l'instant, nous allons prendre une petite pause de 25 minutes, si vous voulez bien, et nous nous retrouverons dans un petit instant. À tout de suite. Vous pouvez vous connecter, il y a une connexion Wi-Fi au nom du CIBP, et donc pour ceux qui souhaitent recevoir leur message, la connexion est possible.
One day, be sure to be a